welcome to to my podcast now, I guess, me and Terry's. I'm on our own, but we've got a veteran podcaster with us today, Justin Cooper from the Epic Tales from the Sewers podcast. Um, you guys know me and Terry, so Justin, why don't you give yourself an introduction, please?
Yeah, I do so much podcasting that my family are podcasting widows, and it's like 5, 6 nights a week I'll be on a recording or something. I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? What show is it now? I'm like, I don't know. It's about Batman. What do you want? It's like, but yeah, I've got a show called Epic Tales from the Sewers. It's all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. I do two different things. We'll either get someone on who's like Turtles or like a creator, writer, artist, or like Turtles adjacent. Maybe someone who makes gross pizzas, and we'll interview them. And then the other thing is we'll read through the comic books, like the IDW stuff or Last Ronin and all that, and I'll actually do it like an audiobook and do the voices. So, which is kind of my favorite part.
Awesome. And you get involved with like the Things Are Getting Sketchy podcast and or streaming
Yep.
that as well, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're like the unofficial Hugh Rookwood and Mike Ruth fan club, and I'll put Jason Flowers in there too. So yeah, I mean, we love those guys. So yeah, anything ever for those guys, we are all about it. So
Yeah, Mike's a. I haven't got to talk to Hugh much, but Mike is a. I've chatted with a fair amount, and he's a pretty solid dude.
he's like if there was a Care Bear that was a Viking, that would be Mike. It's just with like a really big axe and a huge beard. So he's just the best. Like one of the most charismatic people I've ever met, and I'm like, oh my God, how do you not have a show? It's just like it's
Right?
crazy.
I just. I love when you're doing the Things Are Getting Sketchy episodes, and you can see. You can clearly tell without looking at who it is, because you'll. For those of you who haven't seen a Things Are Getting Sketchy episode, it's 3, 4 artists doing sketch covers or whatever to a theme. And it typically focuses on their artwork as they're doing it and talking about it. And you can clearly tell which one is Mike, even without seeing his face, because his beard is always poking out of the bottom of the frame.
Yeah. Or he's
So
using something really creative to draw with.
yeah,
He's
like
like, oh yeah, here's my COVID test. It was positive, so I got to use this and draw something.
he
Oh my
used
God.
at the sketch competition in the convention I physically met him at. He used a piece of toast
Oh
from that
wow.
morning's breakfast. Yeah,
As you do when you go to a sketch competition, you sketch with your toast.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's how he
Was it
finished
like?
off. He was doing like all the blotting around the edges with the ink
Oh
and
wow.
the toast. Yeah,
Like a
fuck it.
sponge or?
Yeah,
Oh.
and it looked
Oh.
fantastic.
What kind of bread was it?
If I
It's a
were,
hearty rye. Yeah.
yeah, if I recall right, it was kind of like a shitty whole wheat toast. But the fun part was it was also buttered. Which I found hilarious. Yeah.
Well, that's organic artwork. Yeah.
Right?
Or not, I guess. I don't know. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, Mike is a trip, man. I was watching him do this one thing where he's like, "All right, I can see if I could draw part of the picture with one hand and then finish the other part of the picture with the other hand." And it comes out, it's like one of the best pictures I've ever seen him do of like the Last Ronin and all that. And I'm like, "Oh my God, somebody pick this guy up. Why is he not drawing Spider-Man or the X-Men right now, It's like absurd."
Yeah. Just ridiculous. The dude is ridiculously talented. I love it. Just absolutely love it. And like you said, he's one of the most charismatic, just friendly people ever.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Um, you said you had a bat, or you were on a Batman podcast recently.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I was recording one last night about the Doom that came to Gotham. I do like a ton of shows, like all the time. So one of them that we do is called the for the Dorkening, who's the podcast network that we're on. It's called the Dork Night, and we talk about things Batman. So maybe this week it's the Doom that came to Gotham, the animated DC that just came out like last month, or the week before it was we're talking about Red Rain, where he became a vampire, something like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean you can tell up here I love Batman, Hellboy, and Turtles. That's kind of like the wheelhouse. So like if I could talk about any of those subjects, I am all in.
So, fucking fantasy idea. How would you mix all three?
Well, they did have a Batman Hellboy crossover, and they had kind of a Turtles Hellboy crossover. But how would I mix them? It would be something like a supernatural phenomenon where they had to fight. Something like one of the old gods, like a Cthulhu or something like that. And maybe there would be like a dimensional barrier that gets crossed, and well, the Turtles actually crossed over with Batman more recently. Yeah, I guess I would do it that way. Like they were fighting some sort of big evil, and they have to pull in some supernatural advice from the BRPD. So, and then Batman's there because they've already met. So something like
Yeah.
that. That's a
Okay.
good question, though.
I like. I could definitely see Batman getting involved through like Constantine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
that could be a cool intro.
yeah, like the
But
Justice League Dark and all that. That was
yeah,
that was a fun one too.
I love Justice League Dark. I was really disappointed when I found that there's a bit of a hiatus on the animated universe, like the DC animated universe. The last couple of years, they
Now,
haven't put out anything.
well, they've got So I just watched the Doom that came to Gotham. Before that was Legion of Superheroes. It was like Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes. So that was like 2 months ago. The beginning of this year was like super lackluster. I don't know
Mm.
if are you guys are gamers. You know the game Injustice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So Injustice, they came out with such a piss poor rendition of
Oh.
that, like from the animation and then like everything. It's like this is really not good. So Injustice came out, and then they had like a Catwoman hunted. It was like really garbagey, not great. But then like Green Lantern, John Stewart, so they're still making them, but it's like they come out and it's like the only way you'd know is if you walk through like Walmart or Target and you're like, oh hey, there's a new thing out today.
Mm.
It's not
Okay.
it's not like really heavily publicized. But now it's like, what are we gonna get? Like now there's a writer's strike. Now there's like new ownership. Everything that we got now is like before Peter Safran and James Gunn took over. So what are we gonna even get? Going down the road. I think Creature Commandos but yeah, we're going into where there's probably gonna be a big lull.
Yeah. Which is a shame because I find like as far as DC goes, like the whole DC Marvel split, I found that Marvel was better at live action, and DC's animated universe was just top tier compared
Oh
to
yeah,
their live action.
without a doubt. Like I think to the point that after Planet Hulk, they had like the Young Thor or something like that, and the Young Avengers, and then they just stopped. They
Yeah.
just literally like Marvel's like, yeah, we're good. We made Hulk versus Wolverine, and we're gonna stop there. So
Oh my god, Earth's Mightiest Avengers was one of the greatest series that Marvel had, and they just killed it after 2 seasons.
which one was that? Because there's 3 seasons. Was that the one that had the really cool theme song with like and like Black Panthers in it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And I really liked it because they didn't pull their punches on the origin stories and shit.
Oh yeah.
Like when they talked about Ant-Man in the cartoon series, they actually showed him being like a narcissistic abuser.
Oh, so they went with I didn't realize they went with like the Ultimates version.
Yeah,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
they showed some really like shocking stuff, and you're like, this is a cartoon. Ostensibly for kids, it was on at like a kid's time slot, so I can see why maybe it got changed over time to tone it down. But
But
like,
there's like weird reasons though, because the Green Lantern, they had like one season of the Green Lantern on Cartoon Network, and then they stopped it, and they're like, "Why did you stop this? This is such a great show." Oh, well, our demographics shifted over, and it was like we were trying to sell toys to young boys, but young girls actually really connected with it, and we didn't want to meet that demographic because we can't sell toys to them. I'm like, what the hell kind of garbage is that? Like we could all be here enjoying and but you never know.
yeah, yeah, it's such a shame because like me and my wife devoured that series. Like we fucking absolutely loved it, and then it hit the third season when it changed its title. It was still like the supposedly a continuation of the series, but it was different at this point. Um, I can't remember what it was called, but we watched like a couple episodes of it. And we're like, eh. I
I
finished
like
it,
the
but the
episode
wife was
with
just lost.
Captain Marvel where she beat the hell out of Ronan the Accuser.
Yes.
That was just like, and then I saw Captain Marvel. I'm like, this is not the same Captain Marvel. you know? It's just not. I'm like, if you knew Carol Danvers like we knew her from the comics, then you see that movie, you're like, this is not. That's not her. You know, it's like she literally beat the hell out of Ronan the Accuser. So that's a geeky conversation, fellas. But still, it's it's fun.
So going back to your podcasting question, or podcasting obsession at the moment.
Yeah,
As a veteran of it, you've been doing it. How long now? Like
probably
two,
about
3
six,
years?
7 years, like in
Oh yeah.
total. Yeah, we started out with a show called Justin versus Justin, which, as I like to point out, was very big in Turkey for some reason.
Mm.
I don't know why. So, but I mean, we did like movie reviews and like we did little competitions and things like that. And the loser had to sing a theme song from a TV show from the '80s. So it was good. We had a thing for a while, we reviewed like the best spaceships and like then went into other stuff and then I had been doing another show called Geek Life HQ for a while, so about 7 years I've been doing it on my own.
Nice. Um. So based on what you know of me and Terry, what would you give us for advice starting out?
Well, I mean, what's the format that you have for the show? And then it would be from the format, what makes you both different? Is it the way you interact with each other? Is it your banter? Do you have different segments that like your peers may not have? Like are you the technically sound guy and he's the color commentator? Like that kind of stuff. I would say define what you want your format to be, and then think about what makes you stand out. That would be the advice that I give.
Hmm. I can get behind that. Yeah. I
That's why I do a pizza recipe at the end of all my episodes, because nobody does pizza recipes,
yeah, fair.
and it could make us stand out a little.
Fair. I know one of the things that we discussed when we were doing this early on was doing like a like build your dream game or something along those lines. Like your dream game, your dream cartoon, that kind of thing.
That's good. That's good because you could always like tailor that based on the guest too, and be like,
Yeah.
"What's your dream podcast?" or "What's your dream wrestling match?" Like we were talking about.
Mm. Um, I think we ended up talking to Wim for so long that we just completely forgot to do it. In our first, we went
Oh, I'm
for
sure you did.
we went for an hour long podcast, and 2.5 hours later, we were like, "Oh shit, we should probably stop talking at some point." Um,
Do you guys have a dream guest? I mean, obviously, besides myself, do you have a dream guest of who you'd want to get on the show?
Terry, I'll let you take this one first because
Um,
I know mine.
you see, I think that kind of depends again on what we kind of nail down for a format, because this realistically is like an all things nerd podcast as it sits. So like it's open to so many different topics and categories. So like my dream guest could ideally change based on whatever category we decided we were going to cover on the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had decided we were going to do like a musical guest or something. Like I've always been a huge Green Day fan, so getting to interview Billy Joel Armstrong would be something that would be really
Oh
really cool.
wow, yeah.
But on the other side of that, like uh, being a big soccer fan, I thought we were gonna do like a sports podcast of some kind, and there was someone as an athlete that I would like to interview. The Canadian Wayne Gretzky is always gonna be up there as like an idol and a hero, but even again going to like my own sport, like Marcus Rashford's one of my favorite soccer players for Manchester United. Like it would always be really cool to talk to someone younger than me who achieved a dream that I missed out on,
Mm.
and learn those kinds of things and what kind of work ethic it took to get into that. So there's just like picking one ideal podcast guest is such a hard thing to do because, like I said, we're such a generalized show at this point that it could fluctuate from topic to topic.
Yeah, I think.
That's freaking compelling though. Like any one of those people, like you just imagine kind of where it goes.
Yeah.
And I give
Uh,
you credit on the athletes because you're braver than I am, man. I would have so little to say to someone. I'd be like, "So,
and here's the thing. Here's the
kick
big
a
thing.
ball?" Yeah.
Yeah.
But my cousin played high-level junior hockey. Never made it to the NHL or anything like that, but growing up, he was closer to Drew Doughty, who was an NHL name. And there
Mm-hmm.
were a couple of summers where I was around my uncle's place where Drew, being off for the summer, would
Hey,
kind of
Mac.
be around. And the number one rule was always when you see him, you don't talk hockey.
Yep.
And that's the thing. So, like, if I had, say, Wayne Gretzky on as a guest, and we were doing a sports podcast, I would honestly be asking him stuff like, what kind of sports do you partake in to escape, like, the hockey season and
Nice.
stuff like that, or like, it's not necessarily in game. How do you deal with this or that? It's how do you prepare for a season overall? Like, how do you set reasonable, sustainable goals for yourself? Because those are types of questions that apply. Like, his answer will apply to this is how I do it for a season. But if you break down that answer, you can apply it to anywhere in your life.
I'm so nerdy. I like, what's your secret to running a successful business and or chair? It's like it's something like that because he's got that drive
But
to him.
but even then, it's stuff like that. It's like you could ask questions like, something I would really like to do someday is find a meaningful way to give back to my community. You have shown that you have the ability to find these not-for-profits. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to get into those types of things?
See, this is
You're
why
right.
Terry's
These are
archetype is the
kind of
professional.
questions.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, this is why Terry's archetype in our duo is the professional because I'm the geek and Terry's like the fucking let's
Yeah,
get
I'm
back
not
on
gonna
track.
lie. I've never been big in the Marvel verse. So you guys sitting there talking about Marvel, I was just like, I'm gonna let you guys go. I got no idea what you're talking about. It's like
I
you
just
said
put it this way:
Injustice, and I'm like, I know Injustice. I got that one. I can follow this.
Donatello, Michelangelo. So
Yep.
it's like it's how
Yeah,
it is.
yep, yeah, pretty much. No, I think for mine, I do like what you said there, Terry, about how we're a very generalized podcast, and I think you mentioned on what category of guest we would get. And I like the idea of that of doing like a rotating kind of like this week we're gonna like we'll plan for a musical or like a musical creative. For next week we might do like a streamer or whatever. But like my main thing was just I wanted to interview and showcase people whose content I enjoy. I just want to bring it to other people, and I love interviewing
Woohoo!
people. I love interviewing people and just learning about people in general. You know what I mean? Because people are the most interesting fucking thing in the world. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I just want to geek out over stuff that I like, and
Hell yeah.
I guess there should be some sort of structure to it, but that's what Terry's for.
We had Francois Chow on, who played the Shredder in Secret of the Ooze, which
Nice.
is my favorite
Yeah.
of the Turtles movies. I don't care, at me if you must. I love it. It's one of those things where it's like he was so excited to be able to talk to other adults about sci-fi and stuff like that. Our conversation went on way longer than I expected. I'm like, oh, we get an hour or something, whatever. He's like, no, I cleared my schedule. He's like, you guys want to talk about The Expanse? You want to talk about this? I'm like, this is surreal right now. This is crazy. I'm like, yeah, what did you think of Battlestar Galactica? Oh my God, when they killed this person, I'm like, dude, friggin' Shredder over here is talking about like Babylon 5 and stuff. This is nuts. And you're right, like we weren't talking about like how heavy was the helmet? Was that a real dandelion? It's like all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff.
it's this thing that people forget. It's that all of these big names, all of these stars, are fucking people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of
At the
course.
end
We're
of
talking
the
about like
day.
barbecue.
Yeah.
Oh, the first thing that I asked, hey, I'm not gonna name drop anybody because live podcast, whatever. But like the first thing I asked him was like, hey, like I know it's been 10 years since you were in Canada. How's it treating you so far? And it's just like, I've only been here like an hour and a half, but the airport was bearable. It was nice and quick. Like this is where I'm staying for a couple of days. Like it's just like I hope your trip's well and all that good stuff.
Mm.
Uh, it's like you want to treat people with respect, and like I met another a different bigger name on Sunday who's pretty big in the independent scene, and it was just like a quick introduction. It was like, hi, I'm Terry. Like, I want you to know that I've been watching your stuff in this promotion, and just like it's great to see you live. And then any other interaction you have with them, you do your best to just talk about other things because they're people. They don't want to just be like they're there, they're in character, it's whatever, and they get that. But especially in the back, like you just want to be someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we
No.
we tend to talk to a lot of artists. That's kind of our thing. Like recently, we got a writer on, and that was like huge for me to have Eric Burnham, who wrote the crossover with the Turtles and the Ghostbusters, and the
Oh,
Ghostbusters
that
and
that was so fun.
Transformers. Oh, what a guy. What a great dude. And it's like you can ask a writer different things than you can ask an artist. Because an artist's like, oh, did you slip anything cool in there that I didn't see? Then a writer's like, oh yeah, I layered this and this and this and I used this sort of like plot device. I'm like, oh wow. You know? And it's interesting how conversations can kind of move differently. Like if you guys have a chef on, you could talk about like their favorite way to prepare corn. It's like, oh, interesting. Like I don't know, and hopefully your listeners will dig it, because it's going to be eclectic. It's like your podcast will be like jazz, but not terrible. You know,
I mean, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
okay, it could be terrible, but that's fine.
You know what? It's one of those things where sometimes you want to be the car wreck because no one can look away from the car wreck.
True.
It's true.
True.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not
also
exactly
morbid, but
not exactly known for my production quality on my streams. I have what I like to call PowerPoint chic, um, where just everything is just kind of clip arty, slightly elevated. like, but
you say that, and I was just thinking that RPG, the last one that we did, where you had everything out, and you were dragging the players across. You moved all the boxes to match where the heads were. I'm like, that was pretty meticulous, if you ask me.
He doesn't give himself near enough credit for the things he does. You'll find that.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really well done. So, and not even just that, the stat sheet that you gave me, and you're like, "Hey, here's your stuff." I'm like, "Okay, cool." I'm like, "Oh, wow, yeah." It's like so organized. I'm like, people don't do that, man. Usually, it's like, "Yeah, I'm starting a podcast, and me and my buddy, and we're just gonna get on and start talking about stuff." Then you end up with like two guys yelling about like wrestling, D&D, or like Marvel movies. It's like that. I swear though, and I mean, besides like true crime, that's like your podcast 101. To be like, I wonder if there's any D&D podcasts. You look and your phone explodes. You're like, ah, crap. Yeah,
yeah,
Who
yeah.
would ever want to talk about that nerd shit?
I
Mm.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to find a way to turn mine into like write true crime in the beginning to or something. True crime, yeah, about turtles.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. True crime from the
So,
Turtles verse.
Yeah.
so Justin, I want to ask you, in all honesty, because like it's the primary thing I know you for. Where did the love of the turtles start with you?
It's always been approachable, right? So it's like when you're a kid, maybe you're not like Wolverine or Superman or Batman or anything else like that, but anybody could be the Turtles, and it was one of those things where it's like I latched onto it because it came out and I saw it in like '87, the cartoon. I saw like the first thing and I'm like, well, this is cool. And then I got for Christmas that year like three of the four turtles. Like my Mikey I didn't get until later, and he had like two left feet, which was crazy. But it was like it was approachable. Like I had it. I went from He-Man to Turtles, and it's like, well, this is cool. And then it's like they have a card set, and they make pies like that you can get covered in green ooze. Oh, and there's a movie out, and there's a cartoon, and there's a comic book. Wait, what's a comic book? And it's like all of that kind of landslides where it's like there's all of this stuff that's available, and there's enough of it for you to really like sink your teeth into as a kid. So then I'm like, all right, well, I'm drawing turtles because I think these are really cool, and I like swords, and I like what are those nunchucks? That's pretty fun. And what do you want to be for Halloween? Oh, a turtle. Okay, cool. Like I mean, so just the availability of all like this really cool stuff when you're a kid in those era, and it's like compared to things like I wasn't really into the Avengers. I wasn't really into Spider-Man and all that. I liked these guys because they're like street level people who are out fighting ninjas. I'm like, I could get into that. And then you got the video game, 1987 or something like that, 88. I get a Nintendo, and like we had two games. One was DuckTales, and the other was Ninja Turtles. And as crazy bad or hard as that game is, I could tell you I can get through that dam without losing a guy. Like no problem today, I could do it.
Could you have gotten two more frustrating games for your Nintendo? Like DuckTales and fucking TMNT?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're not wrong because like
Oof.
I went through DuckTales and I got to a point where I'm like, oh my God, how do I even get up there? And then it was like, oh, someone told me, check this Nintendo Power. And I'm like, you can pogo? I I didn't know for the longest time. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
We didn't have the internet, so we had to, see our friends Nintendo Power to see how you do that or how you beat Mecha Turtle or something. So but
I-
just like completely, it's like I fell in love with it because of the Turtles Adventures comic book. Like the best answer I can give you on that. Like, and I actually have some of the artwork from Ken Mitroni back here. I had him do our podcast logo.
Oh, that's dope.
So
I had I remember you saying on one of your podcasts too. Hugh Rookwood brought it up. That another like real relatable portion of the team and of the Turtles and why it's easier for people to grasp onto is because like they're very clear archetypes in the personalities. Everybody has a favorite turtle. And I think that is a real strength in a piece of writing, in like in anything, is the anybody can look at it and be like, "It's my guy." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You want the truth? I honestly don't have a favorite turtle. I
no
really
kidding.
do like them. I like them all, and the thing I like about the turtles, and the reason I don't have a favorite, is because the turtles to me are, especially now, they are like the quintessential children's D&D party.
mhm.
They are all so different, but manage to make it work.
Yep.
Like I've always, especially as I've gotten older, like after going to school for TV and learning to write stuff like that, I've grown to be a big fan of character development and just good characters in general. And again, the whole idea that they're all so different, but they can all manage to work together at almost all times. I very much love that. So I can't pick a favorite one because they all have their own unique role that they fill at any given moment.
Yeah.
Without one of them, the whole team would honestly just fall apart.
Speaking
And,
of,
and that trust that they have too, right? Sorry, Doug. I
no,
was
no,
just
no,
gonna
go
say, like Raphael, like as angry as he is, and he's like, oh, I want to go and punch this guy in the face and all that. He has that trust that Donatello's going to make something that's not going to fall apart that he's going to be able to use to complete his task, or
Yeah.
that the plan that they have that Leo picked is going to work. And it's like that's family. That's just like that dynamic between brothers and all that, where it's like that's like the sweetness that makes the sauce work altogether. Like those little interpersonal relationships that develop them. It's like, oh, I trust this guy. Oh yeah, I'm riding a skateboard, but it's got like a jetpack on the back, and I trust that he's not going to make me explode. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess it's more recklessness too, but still, it's like that. That's like what you're saying. They're like interwoven, and you get like that development, and that's a really fun part about those characters because you know them. It's like, oh, my brother's Raph. He's totally Raph. Or oh, my sister, she's a total Donatello. She's trying to fix all this stuff up. So,
Yeah.
and I love that too. I love your answer, Terry. You don't have to have a favorite as long as you
Oh,
like
but
them.
I
That's what's fun.
I get what you're saying. Like usually everyone can't just pick a favorite one, and it should. Like I mean, there's a reason that Doug made me Michelangelo for the purposes of his game because when I played D&D, 100% the way I play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can attest to that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about, oh, it just feels like a kid's D&D party with the four turtles. I'm like, I am running a kid's D&D game with four turtles, and you're one of my children.
But I'm the oldest and most responsible one, right?
Obviously.
Yes.
all that lettuce or eucalyptus, right?
That was such a good little episode. I fucking loved it so much.
That yokai one was really interesting too. Like that was fun.
I'm looking forward to our next game. I haven't been able to plan one for the last little bit because of work. But our next one, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's I'm taking cues from the first TMNT Ghostbusters crossover.
Very nice.
So
Interested to see. Willie's gonna like that.
yeah, that's part of the other reason why I was waiting, because Willie is as big a Ghostbusters fan as I am. As you can tell from my Egon up here.
Oh, okay. That's Egon up there.
Yeah.
I just did another podcast just about Ghostbusters, right? We were just asking people, just hey, what's your favorite thing about Ghostbusters? And we were talking about it, and one of the gentlemen that I was interviewing is like, oh yeah, my bathroom is Ghostbusters. I'm like, no way, come on. And he goes, oh yeah, yeah. So sure enough, we go see, and it's like Legos, Funko Pops, like he's got like
Nice. Yep.
Ghostbusters toilet paper holder and stuff. I'm like, oh my god. Like this is nuts. But I love it. I love that dedication that he has. It's like, yeah, the wife said I could have this bathroom. I'm like, the best. Absolutely the best.
I would hate
Everything that she says you can have, it's the fucking bathroom.
I'm
I
like,
would
do you have a trap on the ground to lift the toilet so you could pee in it? Because that would be great.
I would hate to see how they incorporated Slimer in a bathroom motif. Just saying.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't see Slimer at all. It was all just Stay Puffed, like everywhere. I'm like,
So
okay.
I think the correct way to do that is you paint him on the bottom of your toilet bowl, like looking up at you.
Oh yeah.
Out of the little U trap. Like I
Mm.
think that's how you do that. You could have his hands up at the top and then his eyes like poking out.
It's also kind of like frightening, but yeah, no,
Well,
I hear
yeah,
it.
it is, but I think that's the best way to do it.
Just have it glow in the dark paint.
It has to be glow in the dark. Absolutely. God, I was just thinking.
Who needs a bathroom light in the middle of the night? You open the toilet bowl and Slimer lights the way.
I do occasionally run across some pretty fun things, and one of them that I found was this stuff called Nostalgic Spread, and it's flavored like Ecto Cooler from High C.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I have to try this. And it's kind of like buttercream in a weird way, but I guess you could eat it and like spread it on toast or whatever. But yeah, it's made with dairy, gluten, wheat, and soy, so it's got all that stuff in it. But it's kind of like a frosting or anything, but it does taste like Ecto Cooler.
That's fantastic.
That's another property I sadly never got too big into was Ghostbusters. But I'm looking forward to the game.
See, Ghostbusters was the thing that like I grew up not poor, but like lower middle class. Like we were the level of poor that you were like, we had 2 of the 4 Ninja Turtles and they played on a Crash Test Dummy set. Like, you know what I mean? Right.
Look out, Stretch! Whoa!
So we were kind of that level, but like I remember when my first interaction with Ghostbusters was I borrowed it from a friend of mine, and I loved it. But we didn't have any blank VHSs to copy it, and we couldn't afford to buy it at the time. So I copied it onto a cassette tape, and I listened to Ghostbusters the movie for like 2 months obsessively.
That's awesome. You
Yep.
made a podcast based, or like an audiobook based on the movie.
Yeah. Just nothing was getting in my way.
So I'm now wondering if that's like back then with the way they were written, I'm wondering if that would have circumvented copyright law.
It would have, because it wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah, it wasn't a reproduction.
Yeah. And where are you gonna post it? Like the only thing he could do with it would be display it publicly.
But if he had like made several of those tapes and been like, hey, like $2 a tape, like they never would have been able to get anything back from him either.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, granted, it's not Disney, which makes it lucky. But
True.
I happen to know I've looked into copyright laws. You guys could imagine just a little bit, and things that you do, you're not supposed to recreate something as a whole unless it is for like a review and you offer like an opinion on it, or if it's transformative in nature, right? So that's kind of transformative in nature because there's no visual aspect of it. You know, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mac, movie night on tape.
Yeah.
But
So
Yeah,
your local library didn't even have a VHS copy?
no. Our local library was a half an hour away.
Oh,
So it was
okay.
like
Yeah.
I lived in the middle of the sticks kind of deal. We got like my house got internet in 2002. Like that was kind of
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. We were behind the curve a little bit.
Do you hoard salmon for the winter? I mean, like how in the sticks are you? Yeah.
We weren't that level, but we were like, uh, yeah. It's just very much everywhere around us was 10 years behind the curve, and we were like 20 years behind them, and still believed in like that it was the 40s. You know what I mean? Like it was
Oh,
just
wow.
it's
Okay.
this weird mix of people being like, "You look different," and, and then we're like, "Yeah, but we also have high speed internet." I don't know what like. Yeah, it's just it was a very odd place to grow up, and it
Sounds
only had
like
two
it.
bookcases in it. Pretty much, yeah. Yes, but it gave me a lot of introspection, I'll say, because a lot of it was, you're entertaining yourself. You're entertaining yourself with your friends, and I was pretty nerdy, so like when I got a hold of something that I enjoyed because we didn't have a whole lot of options, then like that was my fucking life.
Nice.
like
Stranger Things was actually written by Doug about him and his friends playing D&D.
Yeah.
funny enough, now I never played D&T until my last year of high school.
Oh, that's when you started?
Yeah, my last year of high school, I had my first game as a player, and then I DM'd my first game like a year or two later while I was in university, and then I just went full speed ahead on it.
Wow.
But yeah, in high school, I only played it that one time.
Yeah, I don't think I played my first game of D&D until my first year of college.
Yeah, and I
I was
was
like a full grown adult the first time. I was just like out of everything. My friends were into like Magic the Gathering, and that was like never my thing. And I
See,
was
mm,
like,
that's
yeah.
how it started for me. Is I had uh I had a couple people I knew in high school who were into Magic, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" Just kind of watch it, checking it out. And then that was when I was like a senior in my victory lap. So right as I was going into college again, like I started playing Magic, and then I
thanks,
found
Terry's
that
mom.
started playing Magic in college. And then that same group of people who were playing Magic, that I played Magic with every day, introduced me to D&D.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of intermingling there. I could see. I
Oh,
just
it's
kind
made
of
by the same
avoided the
company.
magic. It
yeah,
seemed like a money pit to me.
It not that it always wasn't, but it definitely is much more so now with
yeah,
like having the standard rotation and all of that type of stuff.
I don't
yeah.
like the dynamic where, you're saying like an 18-year-old kid shows up on a Friday night and he's going to play like this 30-year-old guy who just spent like $800 on like magic card cases and he's just going to destroy and steamroll this kid. I'm like, that shouldn't be a game dynamic. Like there should be like something else. So,
Well, so to the inverse of that, and I'll bring it up because it popped up in my memories today. 8 years ago today, I went to Grand Prix Toronto to play Magic.
Okay.
Uh, and I went 6-3, playing a budget version of a tier 1 deck because I couldn't afford the fetch lands. They were super expensive. I don't think I could afford the shock lands at the time because they were also super expensive. And there were a few other pieces that just it wasn't going to be worth it to put together because I didn't expect to do that well because I'd only been playing for around a year. I did better than all of my friends who took the money decks.
Hmm.
oh,
So the truth is that as much as those money decks help, it's all about how you build. It's all about reducing your variance. That's what it comes down to. It's putting the best cards for any given situation in your deck, making sure there's enough of them, and then trimming your deck to the least amount of cards that you can have while keeping it legal to make sure that the odds of you pulling those cards are the highest as possible.
oh, cool.
Yeah, but you're right. There
Get
are
out of here.
definitely times, and I've seen it happen where some 30-year-old guy, and I even had kids coming, and I mean kids coming to my local FNMs. We're talking like 10, 11, 12. who would get beat by these like 30-year-old guys and get frustrated because they were just getting stomped.
Yeah.
But at the
And,
same
and they're
time,
super gracious about when they win too. You know?
yes, I was thankful that in a lot of the places I was at in our scene, they actually were. You
Hmm.
obviously get your odd case.
Yeah.
But here, thankfully, most people were really good about it. It was mostly the kids getting frustrated because you just get tired of losing, which I get. But the thing about that that I really liked about these kids and why they kept coming back is it does build a lot of character. Like learning how to take it on the chin and come back and see it as a challenge and to overcome that, it's a very big thing that a lot of people will just give up on.
Yeah,
That's what I
that's a fair
liked about
point.
martial arts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where I enjoyed martial arts while I was doing martial arts. Unfortunately, where I was, it became more political than anything else, and that's why I got out of it.
So yeah, I grew up wrestling, so that was one of the reasons why I didn't really have time to get into some of the nerdier shit when I was going through high school that I enjoyed on my personal time, but I didn't get to really pursue it while I was at school. Was I was just always busy with wrestling. Like I was the captain of the wrestling team, and every weekend I was on a wrestling camp or tournament or whatever. In my off season, I was playing football or rugby. Like it was just nonstop. But uh, but I love wrestling. That's why I'm doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu now because there's a lot of
Oh, no kidding. You're in BJJ?
yeah. It's been a little
Oh,
bit since I've
nice.
gotten to hit the mats, but I'm going back to my original workplace in about a month and a half, and I'll be able to start rolling again, and I am stoked.
Yeah, I
Nice.
I haven't done it in so long. I'm a blue belt. My master was Rafael Formiga Barbosa, and he actually just won a huge tournament. So he's down in Texas now. So
Nice.
that's far away. But man, I
I was
love
gonna
that world.
say that name sounds familiar. Has he participated in Submission Underground for Chael Sonnen?
Oh, I
Your
don't know.
knowledge? Because
Yeah,
I was gonna
I don't know
say I
that.
feel like that's a
I know he
name that
goes
I've
to
heard
Abu
before.
Dhabi and all those, but
Okay, so that I may have heard Chael talk about him then,
Mm.
because as much as we talked about earlier, like you being a UFC guy at times, I'm also a UFC guy at times. But I prefer the mat game
Yep.
to a lot of the stand and bang stuff. I like watching the chess match on the ground. So I'm sure I've heard Chael talk about him in his free time.
I mean,
Chael's an interesting character too.
He is, he is.
It's
when it comes to UFC, I generally I'm with you, Terry. But that's also where I know. Like I lived there, so I know how what's done. So I enjoy that part, but I also enjoy boxing on its own.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I like given the choice of watching two MMA guys at UFC that are both like strikers, or watching two boxers. I would prefer two boxers. You know what I mean? Just because I enjoy seeing that like boxing is as much a chess game as wrestling is as well. But I find like UFC, there's still not a there's not a great mix of it. You know what I mean? It always feels like you're great at one or the other, and you just it if you had them great at both on both sides, then it would be more interesting to watch. It would be more strategic to watch. But I found you don't get that enough. So it to me it weirdly frustrates me to watch.
That's
Um,
fair.
that's why I generally prefer like if you're watching boxing, like boxing's the sweet science, right? Like it's if you see a couple of guys who just have devoted their lives to it, it is fucking phenomenal to watch.
Then it's fun to watch like Mike Tyson destroy people too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and then you see you're like, what does he do that's so different? Oh, he just literally went down into the pocket, stuck there, and just threw those uppercuts. And it's like, there's that aspect of it too that's a lot of fun to watch.
Speaking of, remind me, Terry, to reach out to my buddy Brandon Brewer. He's revitalizing the boxing scene in the area here. Just a phenomenal boxer that I went through my basic training with, and he's got a show coming up in 2 weeks, and just so I'm gonna try and get some ringside tickets for that because he always just brings the heat. But
What's his weight class?
uh honestly, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I think he was a featherweight, but
Oh
could be
yeah, that's
wrong.
gotta be fun to
Yeah,
watch then.
yeah. He's always been just this fast as fuck, just striker, and also one of the nicest dudes in the world. Like, would do
It's a
anything
good
for you.
mix.
Yeah, yeah. No, I fucking love him. Um. So yeah, you said about martial arts. So you were a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Did you do anything else for martial arts?
Oh yeah, man. I trained Muay Thai, Tai Chi, like at any like point in my life. Like I love martial arts, and the turtles were a part of that. Actually, when with my youngest, we actually trained karate together. So we did karate for 2 years, but I did BJJ for like 5 years. Muay Thai, no gi, doing that. The what's the other one? I forget what the Japanese version of BJJ was, like the Kyokushin or something. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it now, but I did
There's
all that. Like our gym had like so many different things. We had like the wrestling coach for like one of the colleges would come in, and it was crazy. So like learning that and Muay Thai, that was so much fun. I just hated doing the and boxing, of course, doing boxing. So and that's the funniest thing in the world is that the boxing is the thing that was most successful for me. That's what stuck. You know, like I can
yep,
kick you all day and all that, but it's like when I hit you with like the cross, it's like, oh, that was the, like my left, that was the money shot. So, but
yeah,
yeah, I love martial arts and I love doing it. I couldn't do it when I was a kid, but as soon as I became an adult, I'm like, oh, I can afford to pay for this? Sure, I'm in.
yeah. Yeah, dope. I
And don't be trying to get anybody with Tai Chi, by the way. It just does not work in a fight. So I'm sorry. Yeah.
I've seen plenty of fighting games who have characters where their main art style is either yoga or tai chi. So I don't know. Just based on video game logic alone, I'm gonna have to say that you're wrong. It will definitely
Yeah.
work.
So I'm judging by this. Your character in Tekken is going to be Eddie Gordo, isn't it? It's like so. Yeah, you bring that into the cage and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah,
Oh,
you're fighting a bear. Yes.
that was one of my favorite old sketches that Pete Holmes did. Was he did
Oh, Pete Holmes.
the like the Street Fighter interviews when he was like kicking people out of Street Fighter, and he do the interview with Dulcim, and he's like, none of this is yoga. He's like you're just saying yoga before everything. He's like yoga flame. He's like yoga doesn't catch stuff. What are you doing?
I saw the series with the X-Men where he fired all of them as Professor X,
So good.
and the Batman voice.
Yeah, get out of here, you fucking bird. Uh,
Yeah, that was a good. Man, that must have been like what, like 11 years ago now or something. The Pete Holmes.
yeah, yeah. I was like, time flies, man. I
Yeah.
that came up in my YouTube recommendations or something the other day, and I was like, oh shit, I used to love these, or like I love these. Last year when they came out, like, oh no, this was over a decade ago. Okay, right.
Was that like Funny or Die or something? Like
Yeah.
presents Pete Holmes? Yeah. Wow.
Well, like, oh my god, Pete Holmes is
Is he still doing?
underrated.
Is he still doing comedy?
I've seen him do a couple of like stand-up things, but I don't know if they're recent or if they're
Oh,
like just. It doesn't seem like he's doing a lot, regardless, which is a shame because he was super talented and funny as shit. Just
maybe he
on his
should try
stand-up.
boxing. That's what he should. Right?
Get into yoga.
Yeah.
Remind me never to check group chat messages during podcasts again because I'm always just disappointed by my friends. It's
Sounds like I
never
like your friends.
Yeah.
never anything interesting. Just my friends showing their tits to each other. It's like that's it.
I agree with so Max says in the comments. I agree that the lighter weight boxers are almost always have better matches in his opinion. They usually have more skill than hit hard from the matches I've seen. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
they're
agree
a
with
lot of
that.
fun to watch.
Yeah,
You say they have more skill than hit hard, but then you get hit by a featherweight.
yeah.
They hit
Oh,
just,
they still hit fucking hard.
just as hard.
Any boxer's gonna hurt if they hit you. It's just a matter of time. It's like physics. If you got someone who's at like, that featherweight versus like a heavyweight, it's gonna take a lot more for him to knock him out. You know.
Yeah. I remember I got humbled once when I was wrestling because I was at the top of my game when I was wrestling my last few years of high school. Right, I'm just undefeated. If I can nail it. but then I went and I was training with the university, and they just for a practice match put me up against this young fella named Promise, and he was about 50 pounds lighter than me. He'd maybe like 2 inches taller than me, and I was like, okay, like this should be a breeze. Just tuned me, absolutely tuned me. He moved around me like I felt like he was floating, man. Like he would get me in like heel picks and single leg takedowns and everything, and I was just like, I'm like, okay, so shake hands, and I'm on my back. I don't know what happened. Okay, let's try this
Wow.
again. Like just yeah, dude he was like fighting a velociraptor, man. I couldn't fucking
Wow.
get over it. So
Is
like,
it just because he moved like someone that's not in your weight class, kind of?
well, that's
Like, what was the magic that he had?
well, one thing he
I think I
definitely.
got this. I think it comes down to skill diff.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing he definitely like. I'm not knocking on Promise. He was a skilled fighter for 100%, but he was lighter, so he moved different than people in my weight class, like I said. But he was also just super fucking flexible, light on his feet. He moved more like a boxer than a wrestler, right? So he would
Put all
just
his skill points into dexterity.
yeah, 100%.
Well,
He was
I mean,
just all over me.
it's
Uh,
that thing, especially having watched like wrestling and having shot for OPSA for the highest school I went to. Like that 50-pound difference sounds so unovercomable for the smaller fighter, but everybody forgets
oh yeah.
you have to grab the smaller fighter, and if you cannot grab the smaller fighter, you're not gonna beat
Well,
him.
I said like he was like a velociraptor because I remember like we'd shake hands, he'd be in front of me, and then he would just be like whoop, and he'd be at a 90-degree angle to the right of me.
Clever girl.
Yeah, and then down I go. Like, well, fuck. It was like I didn't even have time to turn and face the guy ever. He was just fucking like,
Wow.
man. He made me feel like a fucking stomping golem. Like just nothing.
Yeah, watching a lot of the like high level BJJ guys, it's the same way.
Hmm.
It's
Oh, dude, it's ridiculous. Like they're like, oh yeah, elevator guard, son of a, to throw you up in the air and all that. And I've seen, like my sensei was like, I don't know, buck 50 if that. And he's picking up a 360-pound guy and just like
Yep.
zoot 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 scooting him around. And I'm like, that is like I could not do that, and I weigh like 100 pounds more than him.
So I think one of my favorite sparring partners that I ever had. He's a black belt now. His name was Matt Cochran. He was a purple belt when I was sparring with him. So he's purple belt. I didn't have a belt yet because so we figured I was like blue belt level, but I didn't have a gi, so I didn't have a belt. Uh, and we um, we sparred fairly regularly. But I loved. He was the perfect sparring partner in that he would present the same opportunity to me for like a week, right? Like so I could just see like, oh, if I could just get this, I can get him in an armbar. If I just get this, I can get him in an armbar. And I would just work it and work it and work it. And I'd finally get an armbar. I'd be like, good job. You're never gonna get it again. You know what I mean? And, right? And he just would bait me constantly like that. And
Oh man,
but
he's purple belt, so he's getting you in wrist locks. I bet. You're like, son of a bitch.
yeah, but it was very purposeful. Like, no, I want you to look for these opportunities. I want
Yeah.
you to do this. He would never say it, but like I was like, yeah, fucking nailed it. It was just the perfect mix of like letting me get away with shit and punishing me for getting cocky. So
Wow.
yeah, he was
I'm
just
in
a
the same
phenomenal teacher.
place in the same place right now because I'm helping train some people in Rocket League who
Yeah,
start getting a little bit better, and they've proven that they're willing to actually listen to what I have to say, so I'm willing to give them a little bit more. And I'm in that same spot where like I'm showing them just a little bit, and I'm letting them get it, and then once they get it, I'm like, all right, well, you've learned it. Let's see what you can do with it.
yeah. No, it was phenomenal. I said I was practicing with him while I was coaching wrestling at the same time, and it definitely changed my coaching style. Just because I like this is something I need to bring forward because like I was a pretty good coach before. I had a couple of banner winning teams, but like it's the height of hubris to think you're the best at anything. Or to think that that you've got something nailed down to the point where you can't learn stuff. Um,
At the end of every match, I will walk to the people who were in my match. I'll say, "Did I get in your way? Any notes for me?" If
Yeah.
the answer is no, then I know I did a good job. Next people I'll ask are production.
Yeah.
Because like the thing that I have to remember is while I'm in there to do my job and to facilitate that, I'm also there to be part of the overall show, and that means I shouldn't be obstructing production. So next, it's hey, production, did I get in your way? And if I did, what can I do to learn from that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a really good takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hell,
it's never get complete. Like I officiated soccer for over 10 years, and I would still go to people who were senior to me if I had any doubt about something. And I was never afraid to ask questions for clarification because like that's the big thing is that rules change all the time.
oh yeah.
Like especially in real sports. Like they're
Yeah.
constantly updated. And I shouldn't say real sports as if wrestling is not a real sport because goddamn does that shit hurt.
Yep. Yeah.
Getting dropped on like two by eights and stuff. Bodies are at risk. Like it is 100% a real sport. But even like refereeing soccer, it's like things are constantly updating and changing, and you need to stay
Oh.
on top of it. Even though that doesn't necessarily happen in wrestling, the rules are constantly changing or updating.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that there aren't things that you need to be working on constantly.
That
You should always
was
be asking for feedback.
that was one thing I noticed because I like again when I was actively wrestling, I was coaching and I was reffing as well. And before every tournament, sit down and be like, okay, so this changed now. And
Yeah.
this is 2 points. This is 3 points. This you don't get points for missed throws anymore. And now there's a 6 point mercy rule. Oh, it's back up to 10. You're like, geez, okay, whatever. Like it just changed constantly.
Baseball's like that now too, where it's like, oh, you can't do this anymore, and you can't do actually football as well. So I don't know, is hockey evolving that way lately? I haven't seen them change any rules.
Um, I can't think of any big rule changes in hockey recently that have really done a whole lot to change the game. The biggest thing I can think of baseball recently is they introduced the pitch clock. That sped things up.
And
Um,
getting rid of like the National League where the pitcher has to bat. That was a big one.
So who are your teams there, Justin? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, Boston Red Sox, absolutely. So Boston Red Sox and my backup national team, and I live in the land of the Cubs, but no, screw that garbage. Dodgers because of Oral Hershiser back in the day. So
Yeah, see, I'm not a big baseball guy, but I was in high school or no, I was in like elementary, middle school the when Toronto, the Blue Jays won two.
Roberto Alomar.
Yeah, when we won two World
Oh yeah.
Series in a row, and like we had fucking baseball fever that for 2 3 years.
I was just thinking on how much it sucks. It's like the Montreal Expos are gone and all that, and it's like, you guys now have one baseball team, and I'm like, what kind of commitment is that as a fan? It's like, is the entire like Canadian like, oh, we all root for Toronto? It's like maybe, I
no,
guess.
God, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no. So like, and I can attest to this even in the hockey space, being in a city that is reasonably close to a couple of different United States borders. You get such a shit mix
Yeah. It's like
of
that with football here.
rulings, but
It's like all over.
and it's the same with all sports here. Like, don't get me wrong, being in my area because I'm a couple hours outside of Toronto, you're more likely to see Leafs fans, but we see lots of Red Wings fans because I'm only a couple hours away from the Detroit border.
Yeah.
We see lots of Buffalo fans because Buffalo is right across the Niagara Falls border, which again is another 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we see Sabres fans. I mean, like, yeah, there's tons of different stuff that we see in and around here. I've got a buddy who's a Montreal fan for whatever goddamn who knows
The Canucks
reason.
fan.
So
That's Canadiens.
my
Oh, the Canadians. Yeah.
my hockey team, this is very personal to me. Why they're my hockey team, is the New York Rangers.
All right. Good.
But you just lost, Doug. So go.
But for the very specific reason that when I believe it was NHL 2010, I think it was when they had create a player mode, and I created a character based on me, The New York Rangers took a shot on me. They drafted me.
Okay.
So
Nice.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's just that's the team that took a shot at you. So
They-
you're like, that's
yeah,
my favorite team.
they're my
Okay.
they're my ride or die. They were there for me, so I got to be there for them.
Guys, I grew up in Connecticut, just outside of Hartford, Connecticut, and we had the Whale. And we had the Whalers until,
Yep.
what was it, like 97? And at that point, that's when I became a Rangers fan because, you could not give away tickets. Like, I remember, like, they were given for, like, good attendance in junior high. Like, oh, you can go see the Whalers. You couldn't give them away, man. You know, so they absolutely deserve to leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't follow a whole lot of hockey. I'm an odd Canadian. I know that. I don't follow a whole lot of hockey. I am a Leafs fan for when I do follow hockey. And I woke up Sunday morning after having stayed the night at a friend's place in Toronto between shows to come back down home for the second show. And I remember waking up in the morning and I remember looking at both of them and I just went, guys, I had the weirdest dream last night. And they just kind of looked at me side-eyed and I was like, I dreamt that Toronto beat Tampa Bay and we actually advanced to the second round of the playoffs. To which they just both started laughing. And I had to pull out my phone. Because up until I saw it, I was not convinced at all that it was
Oh,
real.
my God.
Yeah.
Well, you could have dreamt that there was a big upset for the Bruins, but
I mean, I did dream that, and actually, I'm still trying to figure out what the Bruins did to upset Skittles because I saw the most vicious tweet this morning from Skittles. Skittles tweeted out, "My weekend wasn't great, but at least I didn't choke away a 3-1 playoff lead. Anyways, taste the rainbow."
Oh my
Wow.
god.
Yeah.
That is
Wow.
rough.
I want to know what the Bruins did to Skittles to get that kind of reaction.
That's some deep Bruins lore right there.
Yeah, wow. I would expect that from Wendy's, but Skittles, jeez.
Now, like, the thing is that I, as a Leafs fan, over the last 20 years, have no room to talk about any kind of
You've been-
1 series lead.
But you're
like-
very familiar with
Yeah, I know the
first
feeling.
round. Yeah.
Well, but like, here's the thing: is it's actually funny watching all of
Yeah,
these
like the candy.
fans take. Yeah, that's it, Mac. But it's very funny watching all of these Leafs fans poke fun at the Bruins fans because I'm like, guys, it has not been more than like 3 years since we're in this exact scenario.
Yeah, and there was that year where they won where Boston, because I'm a Red Sox fan, so the Red Sox won, the Bruins won, the Patriots won, and their soccer team won too. Like all in 1 year. I think the Celtics didn't win that year.
Yeah,
like,
so just Bostonians were just unbearable
Yeah.
to be around for a year.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
baseball is king in Boston. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's just one of those things. So as cool as the Bruins are and all that, it's not the same.
Hmm.
I'd say Celtics are probably even bigger than
See,
that. But
we've got both a Bruins fan and a Leafs fan in my office right now. So coming into work yesterday was hilarious.
Oh, I can
man.
only imagine how
Yeah.
that went.
Yeah.
Actually, game 1, I think puck drop was just about 5 minutes ago. I don't know. Have you guys heard the big headline coming out of Florida over the last couple days?
Mm-mm.
Is it man smokes with alligator and makes a
No.
something like that?
So this is still hockey related. Like I'm
Oh,
sure that
okay.
I'm sure that headline did come out of Florida over the last couple of days. Would not shock me in the least. But
Yeah.
this one being NHL related, the Panthers are doing their best to block sales to Canadian residents who want to come down and see the Leafs play. They are trying to give priority sales to Florida residents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did they not realize that like the snowbirds and all that, like half of them
don't-
come from Canada and live
I-
there 6 months?
I don't think so.
That's insane. Yeah.
I mean, you do. Without getting into a hugely political stream, you do realize their governor is trying to pick a fight with Disney, right?
Oh yeah, he's dumb.
So-
DeSantis is,
So,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
you know, like it is kind of par
That's not
for the
political.
course.
That's stupid. So it's like
I just love how
Picking a fight with Disney is pretty stupid.
every
Yeah.
content creator on the planet when they saw that was just like, ooh, no,
Yeah.
Not
Like
Disney.
clearly he's never been hit with a copyright restriction
Yeah.
from Disney. You know?
don't poke the mouse, man. Don't poke the
Yes.
mouse.
Did you see what John Oliver did?
No.
Oh no.
And he got away with it. So Steamboat Willie's copyright is up in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Just Steamboat Willie.
Yep.
Only the black and white version of Mickey Mouse. So, because John Oliver likes to poke the bear.
Yep.
Or the mouse.
Yes, in this case, the mouse. Since it is only 2023 and it's only May at that, and it was the last month show, so it was only April at that. 4 months in, he had his animators do a Steamboat Willie bit, and then they had a Steamboat Willie mascot come out. And anytime I've looked it up, I have seen no response from any of the Disney lawyers, which is
Yep.
shocking to say the least.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like fair use, or not fair use.
Like, we're
Sorry,
talking-
when you move out of copyright is just such an interesting area for
Yeah,
me.
and the whole thing that
Public
brought this
domain,
up
that's
was
the word I
the
was
Winnie
looking
the was the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie.
I started
talking
watching
about-
that. Yeah.
But like
It's a
we're
thing.
talking, like we have to remember that when Winnie the Pooh was still under Disney copyright, like we're talking about a company that stepped in to block that image being used on a child's grave. Like
Mhm.
Disney is relentless in the protection of its IP.
Yep.
Wow, that's brutal. I didn't know that they blocked it used
Speaking-
on a.
So they eventually, after a bunch of public backlash, did back off. But like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Simpsons bit where like Maggie's in daycare and there's all the pictures of
Yep.
Krusty on the wall,
Mhm.
and then Krusty shows up with a sandblaster and he's like, "I've got like 5 words for you kids: unlicensed use of my image," and then he sandblasts it all off, and it's a direct shot by Fox before they were bought at Disney.
It's amazing.
Disney would do stuff like that.
So speaking of the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, I gotta ask, Justin, do you have a favorite genre of bad movie? Because for me, it's bad shark movies.
Ooh, yeah, no, that's pretty fun.
Like,
Uh,
I love
Sharknado.
Sharknado, Shark Side of the Moon, Ghost Shark,
Shark-
Two-Headed Shark Attack. You can't beat it.
with Shark House, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Bad CGI Sharks, which is unrelated, but it is an excellent movie. It is on Tubi.
No.
It was made for $6,000. It is totally worth your watch. It is a good movie. So I
Bad
yeah, I would
C-
say bad CGI Sharks. That's a great one. I mean, I feel like if there's a movie where there's like kids in it and the kids are gonna like solve a crime or solve something like Stranger Things or Monster Squad or something like that. If you
Monster
give me
Squad
like
was so great.
a Goonies, Monster Squad, or what's I don't know, there's this new one like Attack on Skyline or something like that. Like if I'm watching like kids try to like win a revolution or something like Solar Babies or anything, like that's probably my genre.
Yeah.
You know.
That-
Anything like that.
On a side note,
Not-
Monster Squad was a great movie.
Oh yeah, it's a absolute great
Yeah.
movie. So,
I don't know if
yeah,
you're
I'd
familiar,
recommend that.
Terry, but it was like the Universal monsters. So talking like Dracula, the werewolf or the Wolfman, thing from the Blue Lagoon or Black Lagoon, sorry. Frankenstein's
Brooke
monster.
Shields.
Brooke Shields, yeah.
She was there. She was the mummy.
and and they were all like evil monsters that
Uncle Rico's in it from
yeah.
from Napoleon Dynamite.
But the only non-evil monster was Frankenstein, and they teamed up with a bunch of like kids to take down Dracula, which was
Alright.
fucking great.
And they're all into monsters. Like their club is like the Monster Club, and the main character has like a Stephen King rules shirt and stuff, and you know.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of what bad genre of movie I enjoy.
Uh,
Like I used to do almost like a weekly B horror movie night with friends where we
Mhm.
just found like a ridiculously bad horror movies. But in that sense, we did stuff like Sharknado and shit like that.
about like Jack Frost or Gingerbread Man or Thanksgiving.
Yeah, stuff
I
like
ran
that.
a Blockbuster video, guys, so I have seen
We
a
Ah.
lot
also
of
did.
these.
We
Like,
did a bunch. We did a bunch of stuff like that. And then that kind of just in
So,
turn
for our
led
younger
to, like,
listeners, Blockbuster Video was where you used to have to rent
hey,
movies before
it's like
you
Netflix
a
know
killed
what?
it.
library where you paid.
You know
Yeah.
what, Doug? I wasn't even gonna be the one that time because like I grew up at the tail end. Like so
Terry, your generation
I
killed
have,
Blockbuster.
and you know what? I'll tell you why my generation killed Blockbuster because I have a big fuck you Blockbuster story.
Me too, because I worked there.
So
All right.
Blockbuster used to do disc refurbishing, and they were one of the very few.
I remember that. I remember that.
to do that back in the day.
They used to have to fix my PlayStation 2 games.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I played so much Halo 3 ODST online multiplayer that I created a wear rig in my disc. So much. Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours. With my friends. And it was a great time.
I could
And so
I can imagine you as an Xbox lobby kid.
Oh yeah, I was. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the big thing was this was the Halo 3 where it came on the 2 separate discs. So Halo 3 ODST and the ODST multiplayer. And you had to have the multiplayer disc and you couldn't buy it separately.
Oh no.
So, multiplayer disc was the one that was worn. Took it into a Blockbuster to get it refurbished. They go, all right, come back in like a day or two, whatever, because we have a stack that we have to get through, and it'll be done for you. Well, when I come back, all the top art of my game has been rubbed off.
My God, he did the wrong side.
Amazing.
So, if you know anything about games and how they work, that is where all the coding sits.
Yep. Yeah.
For the
It's
it's all on the underside of the artwork lasered on top of the disc, and that is how your console reads the disc.
yeah.
So if you scratch the bottom side of your disc, your console will read that you've got like a skip error, and yeah, it'll do that. But if you scratch the top side of your disc, you are even more fucked.
Yeah.
Just in case you didn't know. So when I went in, what the guy told me was there was a 50-50 shot of that happening. Because I complained. I was like, my game doesn't work. Yeah, there's a 50-50 shot of your dumbass employee putting it in upside down.
What he literally said is, "There's two sides, dealer's choice, man."
Exactly, pretty much. And they refused, like I was pissed. They refused to, and again, they should have replaced both discs. Like it was a full $60 game at the time to get both discs. I had to go out and buy another copy just so I could play multiplayer.
See,
Wow.
Could not buy just the multiplayer disc.
would not have happened at Justin's Blockbuster.
Oh, I don't
beginning
know.
of
I
that.
mean, it was like, dude, I was in like the ghetto, and it was like when I first went there, like the first day, it's like, oh, what's that smell? Oh, it's a dead rat. Like what? What's that? Oh, those are like hypodermic needles. What? So by the time it's like we cleaned it up and all that, then maybe, but like we could not keep good employees. You know, it's like, hey, could you not steal this week so I don't have to fire you? Oh, okay. You know,
So
so
I assume you've seen the Netflix Blockbuster series then.
I have. Yep.
It
Yeah.
was so disappointing.
Really?
Yeah.
I
like
enjoyed
Baby
parts
Spook,
of it.
though.
Yeah.
I like Randall Park, so I like those two.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I like all the people who were in it. It's just for whatever reason I could not get behind it, and that was a show I really wanted to like.
I didn't say it was like I wouldn't say it was a top comedy by any means, but I think it was like for me it was a solid like B minus. You know what
I
I mean?
like the zaniness of it, but
Yeah.
it's also different too because it's like, why do they have like a big office like that? And I'm like thinking of stuff like this. I'm like, he has a big office like it's an office building. No, you had like this tiny little like door next to the bathroom or something where you would do your computer work. I'm like, it's not realistic to me. So it's like I look at it with a different set of eyes. the comedies are right. It's just like some of the jokes are really contrived, but I really do like JB Smoove, and I think he's so hilarious in there. He's like, look at my daughter. Oh, she called me a cook.
If we
Yeah.
want to talk about bad movies that we thought were gonna be good, damn was I disappointed with Quasi Doug.
Oh, I
Yeah,
gotta
that's a
watch that.
shame.
Yeah.
It was it. It's not bad. It's got some good moments.
Did you
It
like
is.
Slam and Salmon?
I've never seen Slam and Salmon. That one I'll admit. And I know that they did a horror movie too that I need to.
Club Dread.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, you haven't seen Club Dread? That one's really good
I
too.
actually have
Live
that one
action
on.
Pac-Man.
I actually have that one
I
on DVD. Yeah.
so
Yeah, the live
was
action Pac-Man part was great.
I was
So
really weird in like my comedic growth. I remember being really really young, and like I remember being like the right age for when stuff like Step Brothers came out.
oh, nice.
And like I remember being in like the 5th, 6th, 7th grade, like being the perfect age for shit like that. Like you're at the right age where you should start watching movies like that with your family or your friends and
That
stuff
was
like
like
that. You get a good laugh.
Spaceballs and Wayne's World for me at that
Yeah.
And
age.
and
Yeah.
that's the same idea.
Mine were skewed.
But
I think it was like 9 or 10. It was the first time. No, I would have been 12, 11, 12. Anyway, that would have been the first time that I watched Orgasmo.
Oh
Um,
my God.
so we were a little bit all over the place. Like one of my favorite
I
movies to watch with my friends at the time was Army of Darkness. At
Of
like
course.
10 years old.
but my
Like,
comedy enjoyment was really skewed in the sense that like even though I was the peak age for that kind of stuff like Anchorman and all that, I was not a fan of stupid humor
mm.
as a kid. I would sit there and go, "This is just
You
dumb."
didn't like Airplane or like Naked Gun?
So you see, those are all pretty.
That just came up in chat.
Things. Yeah,
Mac was saying his favorite bad movies were pretty much all Leslie Nielsen movies.
so like those were
Yeah,
things that I wouldn't have been subjected to anyway, being
Okay.
born in the mid '90s. But like
it's just a young
Anchorman
fella.
was very. I remember watching it with my friend and falling asleep halfway through it because I just didn't find it compelling
I
enough
didn't
to
like
keep
it the
going.
first time I saw it either. I
Or
rented it and I was
or
just like, what
Step
the hell is this?
Brothers. Like Step Brothers, the very first time I saw it, I was like, "Damn, this is stupid."
Oh, wow.
I remember watching Talladega Nights and not giving the slightest of shits. Like another one that was big here in Canada, at least, Trailer Park Boys. I remember trying to
I never
watch
got into
that
Trailer Park
as like,
Boys, to be honest. I'm gonna
and the
catch
big
some
thing
flack for that, I'm sure.
and the big thing that got me into Trailer Park Boys was after going to school for TV, really appreciating the style that it's shot in
Hmm.
because it was always really off-putting to me that it was like this camera crew following people around. It's like, why are you doing this? Because this doesn't happen in the real world. But then you learn about like mockumentary as a style and all these things. Grow
This
to
is Spinal Tap
appreciate
and
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you grow to appreciate it for what it is. And now Trailer Park Boys is the series that I try to watch every new season, at least one.
how many
Now,
seasons are they on?
They're still on Netflix and they're still coming out with
Oh,
one a year pretty much. And then they've got their own SwearNet site where they do their own bonus stuff. There's an animated Trailer Park Boys show on
that I saw, yep.
Netflix. So
yeah.
It's like there's an animated Letterkenny, which
Yeah.
Letterkenny was all right.
It was
I didn't,
alright.
I didn't
Oh,
watch it.
now, Shorzy, on the other hand, fantastic.
Give your
Yeah,
balls a
Shorzy was
tug.
great.
Yeah,
Shorzy was great.
there's I don't know if you're tracking Justin, but there's a spin-off series called Shorzy, and to me, I say it's kind of like a mix of it's Letterkenny meets Ted Lasso.
Oh, cool.
It's like I saw someone called it a sitcom or like a rom-com, but the romance is between a town and hockey.
Yep,
And
that's a pretty good way of putting that.
yeah, and
I
it's fantastic. I fucking cannot wait for the second season of it.
I'm gonna have to watch that because I loved Letterkenny. I
I get
loved it.
what you're saying about it being a cross with Ted Lasso. I don't think it gets anywhere near remotely that
Oh
serious.
no, Ted Lasso is
Um,
just is
I think I
fantastic.
think a better analogy would almost be like semi-pro,
Okay, yeah.
like Will Ferrell like trying to get his city behind his team.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. But either
Did that
way,
one make you laugh? Did
Every
Semi-Pro make you laugh?
So
Okay.
I will admit I went to see Semi Pro in theaters with my dad, and that was an excellent movie. Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl, baby.
yeah. I what would you say your favorite movies to watch in theaters are? Like, because everyone's like, I got to go see like the big popcorn movies, but I think one of my favorite, like, I always enjoyed watching Marvel movies because I was watching it with the family. Typically, like Star Wars is a me and the wife thing. We go see every big release Star Wars together. Even though
That's definitely better. Yeah.
I'm the Star Wars fan, she's not as much. Like she appreciates it, but it's like I'm the fan, like quite clearly. But she still enjoys going to see those.
If they
And
were priced more appropriately,
yeah,
um, I think the correct answer for me is anything sci-fi or anything war-based.
mm. See,
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I can't go to see war shit in theaters
no, and
for
I can
reasons, but
definitely understand why, but like
I'm the
it's
same way. I don't do bank robbery movies at all because
yeah,
I was in one. Guys came in, took over, did the whole thing. So people were like, "Oh, did you see The Town?" I'm like, "Nope, not gonna watch it."
yeah,
So
no,
I
I
should.
like
totally get it. Yeah.
Wait, you said you were in a bank robbery?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah. I
did.
was a bank manager, and they came in and all that. So it's like, yeah. So I don't care to relive that. So
I
you know,
fucking
like
no doubt.
I get that entirely in its entirety. The thing for me is I went to school for visual effects
Fair.
as my post grad. So knowing the time and effort and the things that go into not just the visual effects on screen, but the sound design, because I've done
Hmm.
Foley work and stuff like that.
Foley
Um,
work is amazing.
the big thing for me is that is the peak way that it was meant to be enjoyed.
Hmm.
So I would like to do it the service of seeing it in that light at least once. Like
Fair.
does
my
it
own
depend on like the type of movie though? Like,
um to some degree yes, to some degree no. For instance, Avatar, the original Avatar, I remember seeing in theaters.
Yeah, the Last Airbender. Yeah.
No, no. James Cameron's
the
Avatar.
only true Avatar.
Yeah. Uh,
how to
the
how to fucking
reason that
annoy
I am
half your fan
so
base at one time.
Yeah.
yeah, the reason that I am so blessed to have seen that movie in theaters when I got the chance is because that is the movie that
Hmm.
we can quintessentially point to as the movie that changed what 3D is in movies. Because it was the first movie to really use depth as the 3D element as opposed to having things pop out of you. It was the
Yeah.
first movie I can think of where I didn't get red and blue glasses. I got regular glasses, and it wasn't stuff flying out at me. I was looking as deep into that. Like, I remember the shot, that first shot on Pandora, when you're looking through the trees over the ocean, and you just look for miles and miles. And that's the first time they really implement the 3D on the grand scale for you. And just that shot has stuck with me for so long.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
So it's like I'm super disappointed I never got to see something like Saving Private Ryan in theaters with a proper, well designed sound system in a properly darkened room with a screen that can give that type of thing its proper grandeur.
hmm
Because as
1918 was cool like that, and on the
Oh, that
big
was
screen.
so good. Such a good
Yeah.
movie.
as much like if I had a home theater at home, I would love to get like the highest quality possible, like Blu-ray, whatever I could find. But even then, it's never gonna equate to a master copy.
I'm so shocked right now because I think you're the you, I take it you liked Avatar, right? Like you're a fan of Avatar.
I've only ever seen it a few times with it being the length that it is, and I was quite young when it came out. Like I remember going to see it at 13, 14. I've seen it a couple of times since then. I did enjoy the movie. it was well done. I have yet to see The Shape of Water. Definitely on my list. Again, it's one of those things where I know I'm gonna have to set aside like a good like 3 to 4
Yeah,
hours to
3 hours
watch
or
it.
so. Yeah.
So like it's gonna be a big time. Um, yeah, it's a great movie for sure.
I do not know a lot of people that like Avatar. And I mean, like with all the podcasts I do and stuff with like talking about movies and all that, I like you are the one person that I have talked to that has like positive things to say about it. And
But
what
what
you're
is
saying about it is great. Like the
but
cinematography and all that.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
the big thing about it is like Avatar's story is a generic story.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. 100%. It is not anything super compelling. But if you look at the time where it came out, you can link it to major political events at the time, which a lot of people often did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it came out right on the back of like the Iraq War and the invasion after 9/11 and all of those things. So like a lot of people took it to be like an allegory for America going for oil and stuff like that. Now, whether or not that's the director and writer's intention in any of that, it's all up for subjective debate. He's never been on the record saying yes or no to anything that I've ever seen. But it's one of those things where like regardless of if the story for a movie is good, there are other things that you can take away
I
from it.
I think a critical point of appreciating movies is and media in general is, like you said, Terry, keeping in mind the time it was produced in, because if it,
Yeah, could be.
it's not necessarily that you're like, oh, this would have been acceptable during this time. It's like, well, because of this artistic choice, what were they? There was a reason for that, and
Yeah.
it's usually has to do with something that was going on at the time. So being educated in that time period or being familiar with that time period will bring that
Well, it's
into
even
more
something
focus.
that a lot of people who are older than me may not necessarily think of right away. Like, not to say that 9/11 is not a major impact in your lives, in your respective ways at your age. But I remember sitting in class, first grade, September 11th, 2001.
I was in
I
grade 9.
I was just say I may be
Yeah.
my fifth day of school ever,
Yep.
and my teacher just drops shock, not a word of what's going on, has no clue what to say to anyone, and like it's because you guys were older, you guys were subjected to different feelings at the time. Like you were old enough to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
I had a military dad. We watched the invasion of Iraq on TV, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, so like you guys were subject to different things at that time. So like even looking at like what allegories would would or could have been made, you're still potentially taking different things from it.
Yeah.
Uh and the big thing for me is again it's appreciating how that movie changed the industry
Yeah, yeah,
as a
absolutely.
whole, because now 3D movies are clear glasses. I haven't seen a red and blue glasses set in God knows how long, unless it's coming out of like an old movie where you need it to operate that movie.
Yeah.
And even then, like the ones that they're selling for home use now are often the clear like real 3D glasses.
Yep.
And there's a science to this too. That's I guess it's more of like a sociological experiment where it's like during times of xenophobia and all that, where people are afraid
Uh,
of like
the
foreigners.
other. Yeah.
That's when you have like what did we have like in the early 2000s? We had Underworld and Van Helsing and Hellboy to an extent. It's like, oh, that's where you get like the foreign vampire werewolf or something like that. And then on the other hand, when it's flipped, when we're more upset as a country with ourselves, and we're less xenophobic, then you have zombie movies where we are the enemy. And things move like that in cycles. And
Yep.
I
Yeah,
mean, like think
and
about Walking Dead, how long that was going.
Or
That's
that if
and
you look at the late '80s, early '90s, it was all the war on drugs and eco
yeah,
warriors. It
and
yeah,
and to
was all
those who
Nancy Reagan
haven't
and
seen
Clinton.
it, to those who haven't seen it, the Robert De Niro movie Wag the Dog
Oh my God,
is
yeah.
such a phenomenal film to show how media spin works in just utterly changes things on a dime. Like anytime I can plug that movie to people, I will, because
It's a good movie. Yeah.
it's
I
such
have actually
underrated.
not seen it. I'm gonna have to put that on
Seriously?
my list.
Well, your local blockbuster. Oh crap!
Ah,
I imagine you could find it streaming somewhere, but you'd probably have to pay for it. But I mean, this was like their first time being in a movie together. Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman. And
yep.
then you'd get him again in what was it? Meet the Fockers, I think
Yeah.
would be when they'd show up again. But it's a great
Doug,
performance.
Doug, the premise of this movie is Robert De Niro is a spin doctor for the president of the United States who is caught up in this marital scandal.
Hmm.
And as you do, when faced with a life-altering problem as the president, you create a whole nother life-altering problem to distract from the one in your own pocket.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite quotes that I saw from the what was it, The Good Place? And he's like, "Yeah, we should just use a Molotov cocktail. Every time I have a problem, I throw a Molotov cocktail, and then boom, new problem."
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Sound advice.
yeah.
I just like, Terry, that you said that you like that movie and the reasons that you have behind it and all that, and that you stand by it. Because, like I said, I don't know a lot of people that like that movie, and whether it's because of the story or anything else, I don't really care for it. To me, it was just like boring. But I absolutely understand what you're saying. Like I'd put it on, and mute it, and do laundry to it. It's gorgeous. Yeah, I did the rides at Disney. Yeah, I mean it was cool to see the giant loader that they had there. But yeah, it's not my favorite. But should that be experienced on the big screen? Yeah,
Oh,
100%. I
speaking,
say see it in a friggin' drive-in. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's one of those
I love
things. Like there
drive-ins.
are plenty of movies that I would not consider to be good movies, um, that I think should be experienced for one reason or another. Like, The Exorcist, the original Exorcist. Nowadays, by now standards, not a good movie.
Well, and here's part of the other
But
problem is a lot of people our age will look at movies that came out around that time frame and be like, "Oh, it's so cliche." It's cliche because they're the ones
Yeah,
who
they did it first.
they
Yeah.
did it first. They're
but
not cliche. Everyone who is aping them is
no,
cliche.
but
But
I'm
yeah,
even
they hit every
talking
note
like
because they
in
wrote the
terms.
music.
But I'm even like talking about like the writing for that movie is not super strong writing.
No.
No, but
It's
the acting is like with Max von Sydow and Ellen
you're
Bernstein, and yeah, like
Mhm.
you're
yeah,
absolutely right. And not only that, but a few of the effects that they used at the time, for sure, like her walking backwards down the stairs, as hokey as that looks now, was fucking terrifying back in that time period.
Mhm.
that's only in the director's cut.
Yeah,
That's
Really?
not even in the
that's
movie.
the
That's
only
only in
so
the
that's the
director's
only
cut.
so the
Isn't that
director's
crazy?
cut is the only cut I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So and like even like her head turning around and like the projectile vomiting, even like even though I wouldn't consider it to be a good movie, because of the impact it had on the horror genre as a whole. Again, I think it's a movie that people should just see in the proper setting.
Mm.
And
There's your segment right there, like the films that made us, and you could do a whole podcast about that,
oh, absolutely.
like a
Yep.
whole episode.
100%.
I that's a great topic too. Movies with a cultural impact that weren't good. And I
Yeah.
imagine you could talk about the impact of RoboCop, which I love
Oh my
RoboCop,
god,
but I
yeah.
mean it's like RoboCop gave us Double Dragon. It's like, so go ahead, discuss Double Dragon, which also must be seen on the
Well,
big screen.
if anything, we definitely have a topic for episode 2 with fucking Justin Cooper.
Oh yeah, what are we talking about?
Yeah, we'll just change it from Tales from the Sewers podcast host to former Blockbuster manager Justin
Ugh.
Cooper.
Oh my
Just-
God, the stories, guys. I'll tell you this: my boss, like my manager, went to jail for running guns across the Gulf of Mexico. He killed someone, right?
Jesus
And I
Christ.
asked him, like, why'd you go to jail? He goes, somebody rolled on me. And I'm like, Jesus. He had like
Somebody
these prison
roll.
tattoos and all that. And he's like, hey, you know what they don't tell you in that fancy school of yours? You know what they do? They keep them baby food jars, and that's how they make crack cocaine. And then he taught me how to make crack cocaine. And I'm like, how are you in charge of this blockbuster? He's like, I don't know. They figure I'm the only one tough enough to do it. And it's true. It's absolutely true. He looked like, you guys ever watch Looney Tunes? They have that big red-haired
Yeah, yeah,
monster.
yeah.
He was like him, only bald. And I mean, I don't know. Like I saw him literally pick up a kid's bike who was trying to steal like an Xbox game and hit the kid with the bike. And I'm like, this was the tough blockbuster that I worked at. And it's like, yeah, my scumbag boss, and who eventually was fired for I think he
Eating
had
children
sex.
with bikes.
No, he had sex with one of the employees in like the back room or something like that, and he had it on tape. And I'm like, wow, what a creep. And I'm like, ew, in the back storeroom with a dead rat. I'm like, it's all gross. But man,
Classy,
you talk
classy.
about blockbuster stories, man.
But
Oh,
man, this dude is a resourceful dude. He knows how to make crack cocaine and baby food jars. He's
I'm
got
just
her.
saying. He taught us how to make tattoos with pieces of an old Walkman. He's like, check out that spider. I'm like, that's a spider? It's like, hell yeah, it's a spider. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Right, dude. All right.
That's fucking
Insane.
yeah. So I'm definitely booking you in the future for a blockbuster fucking breakdown.
Nice.
Because
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I got stories, man.
What do you think in your time at Blockbuster was your most rented movie?
That's
Ooh.
easy. There's two, because like I told you, I was in the absolute ghetto, right?
Yeah.
There's two movies that they love in the ghetto: Scarface and Chucky.
Mm.
So the answer would be I went through at least one copy of Scarface a month, where somebody wouldn't bring it back and everybody's asking for it, so we'd have to open it up and put it
Yep.
back out there.
Mm-hmm.
Scarface easily. And you want to talk about a movie that sucks? I'm saying this right here. Scarface is a terrible movie. It's not a good movie.
Really?
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch it. And it's like everyone's like, "Oh, he's over the top. He's all that." Yeah, try following this Brian De Palma mess.
Yeah.
It's just not great. And the other was like Seed of Chucky or something like that. And I do not know why, but it was so popular, and it was just like, "Oh, you got Chucky, 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 Chucky." Like, but it was those two movies.
We
Like
got
they were.
we got a
It's funny
suggestion
because
from chat.
Scarface. I was gonna
Suggest
say Scarface is one of my guilty pleasure gangster movies. Like I know it's bad, but it is one of them.
yeah.
It's cool. Like I say, don't yuck anybody else's yum. That's fine. But it's like for the movie, it's like you're gonna tell me that this is like a classic cinema, like The Godfather or anything. I'm like
I
with all the little
remember
cuts and all that. I'm like,
I remember being 13 and watching that movie for the first time, and I remember the scene where the dude got his like cut off in the fucking bathtub with the
Yeah,
chainsaw,
yeah.
and I was like, "Holy fuck, what have I gotten
You know,
myself into?"
similar for me. You know what one got me was it was an old Jackie Chan movie, but it was they threw like a gangster in a wood chipper, and
ooh,
they brought like the bag of stuff that came out of the wood chipper in like a contractor's like garbage bag to like his gang, and they're all like, ugh! But yeah, that stuck with me
Yeah.
forever.
you
Now,
mean Creep Show 2, where they had the moss? I don't know if you guys have ever seen Creep Show 2, Stephen King.
yeah.
Ugh. There's this lake, and they swim out to this raft on the lake, and then as they jump in, there's this moss, and the moss just starts picking them off one by one. Messed me up big
The
time.
one the one that still haunts me to this day, and I saw this as a fucking adult, and it still haunts me to this day, is the fucking stair scene from Pet Cemetery.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And the reason that fucks with
I
me so
get
much
it.
is I was a soccer player and I was a striker. So anytime I see that, I feel someone's cleats raking me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, oh my fucking, like, I'm talking about it. I can feel it fucking going up my legs. I need to stop.
Followed up from horror movies. The one that stuck with me was like a Pet Cemetery 2, I believe it was, with the dirt bike scene.
I never saw the second one.
Yeah, there was a dirt bike, like he had, because it was like a rear wheel drive dirt bike, and he just fucking sawed into Buddy's face with it. And I was just like,
Nice.
yep,
Nice.
Yeah, nope. I'm out. Mac also agrees with you, Justin. He can't stand Scarface.
Thank
I like
you.
Scarface.
But
I like Scarface.
his suggestion for a big classic movie that sucks was Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah, that movie is like when you watch that, you're like, holy crap, this guy's an awful person. Like he's such an abusive boyfriend and all that. You're like, oh, this is awful. Why do people like this movie so much? I get it. I totally get it. Night Fever, great Bee Gees soundtrack and all that, and it's just like I don't know. I prefer Airplane.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna give another hot take for big name movie that's kind of meh. I'm gonna go with Pulp Fiction.
Maybe you should watch more movies before you make that. No,
I've
no,
watched a
yeah.
lot of movies, and I'm gonna go with Pulp Fiction because it's like it's a good movie. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it deserves a lot of the hype that it gets. That's as a personal opinion.
I think okay. So for me, Pulp Fiction, I thought was personally, I think it was great, but I only ever remember about 60 to 70% of the movie. Like there are some storylines that just didn't stick for me. You know what I mean? Like they're like white noise in the movie to me. And I think if it were a more cogent movie, maybe that might not be the case. So I can see where you're kind of coming from with that.
I mean, you want to talk about disjointed and cut up messes. You want to talk about Scarface.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more about like the way it's constructed and like the edits in there and
Oh,
in
don't get me wrong.
Scarface. Like, yeah.
I'm all about the whole idea of like Pulp Fiction being like the ultimate comedy of errors that kind of like
Oh
plays
yeah.
all these interconnected
Oh no,
narratives.
I think there's better movies, like for sure. Like trust me, I would rather watch Big Lebowski than Pulp Fiction, and that may be a hot take too. But I love Big Lebowski. But I mean, my favorite Tarantino movie is Reservoir Dogs. Still, you know,
Yeah. It was.
and I didn't like Hateful Eight at all. Like I just didn't like it. I thought like I'm like wow, Bone Tomahawk came out at the same time, and I
Same.
liked that movie a lot better.
Yeah.
You know?
For me, I'd have to say it was Django Unchained. I fucking love
You didn't like
Django.
Django?
No, I mean I love Django. Django's
Oh
probably
yeah,
my
no,
favorite
Django
Quentin.
was good. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite Tarantino movies are the Kill Bill movies.
Yeah, great choice. You know, it's like I just
And
didn't
I don't
get
know if you guys have
you know
heard, but they're
Hateful Eight.
apparently actually about to do another Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So you think his
So
10th movie would be Kill Bill 3?
so Tarantino was on the record at the end of Kill Bill 2 saying he wanted to do another one, but he wanted his actors to age naturally.
Oh,
There's only
interesting.
one way to get natural age. That's to let it happen.
Well, there's no
So
Bill. You know?
but that's not supposed to be the story because if you remember, Bill died at the
Yeah.
end of the movie anyway.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Spoilers.
what would it be? Yeah.
The idea is that if you'll remember the end of the movie, the bride leaves with Beatrix Kiddo,
Yep.
or sorry, with her daughter, whose name I can't remember for whatever reason. Beatrix Kiddo is the bride. There is thought that it's going to be Vernita Green's daughter
Yeah. And Black
coming
Mamba
back for
or
revenge
not Black Mamba.
as that was Black Mamba, I believe.
I thought Black Mamba was the bride, and that's why they had that problem. But yeah, Vernita Green, man,
Yeah.
her daughter, that would be a good one.
Because
That-
they have that setup in the first movie, and she even says, hey, if someday you find that you can't sit with this, come find me. And I think that would be a really interesting story to tell. You could even have her have trained her daughter and have it be like her daughter versus Vernita Green's daughter or something like that. Like there's a few
Okay.
interesting things you could do.
So this leads into I think how to build your dream segment kind of thing. What would be Justin? What would be your dream sequel? And this would be your dream sequel that you know is never going to happen.
So does it have to be a movie or could it be like a show?
Oh, whichever
Either one?
your first thought. Yeah.
Oh, I mean Firefly for sure. You know, I'm thinking like Firefly where you get an extra season or maybe you do something after the Serenity movie.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that would be a great one to go with.
How do you think it would play out?
Well, I mean, you'd have to work around, the characters that are no longer there and just kind of pick it up. And I would like to stay away from that cliche, like kind of going back to what you guys were talking about earlier, where it's like there's kind of like these cliches where it's like, oh, it's this person's daughter and they're doing this. And they're doing that in the comics right now, where it's like, oh, it's Wash and Zoe's daughter, and she's running the ship. It's like, okay, I would kind of stay away from something like that. I would do it where it's like, okay, this is the crew, and we're going to get the crew and find them where they've been scattered throughout the winds after the movie, and just kind of like pick it up from there and bring it back to like the Western space adventure that it was.
I
That's kind of what
I
I
would
would
love
do.
to see it follow like how Terry was saying Kill Bill 3 would be, with the actors naturally aging, leaning into it, to have it be
Yeah,
like, yeah,
or
Nathan
do it
Fillion,
animated.
yeah,
I'm not picky,
but I mean, like, Nathan Fillion's not a spring chicken anymore, but he's still in half decent shape thanks to his like being on the Rookie and everything.
He's
Like,
in Guardians 3, which comes
yep,
out this Friday, so
yeah, like, lean into it. Just be like, yeah, he's not as fast and everything. It's been 10 years since that he's been in hiding or in jail. You could have it
Do
start
you
with a
guys watch
prison
Star
break.
Trek? Do you guys watch Trek at all?
I'm
Uh,
not a Trek guy.
I'm not a
No.
Trekkie. The wife is
Okay.
though.
All right. So like Picard is an example of that, where it's like you have
Hmm.
Captain Picard, who's like 86, and still doing the show and stuff. And it's like this story could not have been told unless he got to that point, to that age, and
Yeah, hundred
everything
percent.
progressed. So it's I feel like there's more stories that you could tell in that universe,
One of
even
my
if they are new characters.
one of my favorite things to deal with is something that's near and dear to my heart, is the theme of catching up on stuff that you've missed while you were away. Like, because for me, when you go on tour, or when you're away for 6 months to a year at a time, life moves on without you, right? Um, and this was a really good. So Superman, I'm not sure how much you're following the Superman stories at the moment, Justin, but
Oh, like the Action Comics and all them.
yeah,
Isn't Bendis still writing them?
I think so. But
Huh.
they did this whole thing where John, his son, was sent away by, I can't remember exactly. It was an accident or whatever. He went away with his grandfather, and then got stuck in another dimension and aged up like 10, 12 years because he was living in this other dimension with his grandfather, and he came back. And then a lot of people in the fandom hated it because they're like, oh, they could have done so many cool stories with Jonathan Kent, and Damian Wayne, and like all the stuff they could have done with them that they missed out on. But to me, it was more interesting because it gave me something in common with Superman. It was like we both have these time with our children that we've missed, and and he resented the fuck out of his father for it, for taking this time away from him. And he's like, yeah, but I lost half of my son's childhood because of something you did. You know what I mean? And that is just such a cool story, and something
Yeah.
that resonates really well with me. And I think that if you were to do something with Serenity like that, but like after the end of Serenity, say Mal was in jail for 10 years, whatever, and he missed out on all this stuff. You could very easily have him going around trying to like catch back up with his crew and everything, and have their lives have gone on in those 10 years that he was gone. You know what I mean? Like, he is that fish out of water, and he's trying to make those connections again. I think would be really interesting.
And he's that guy that holds on to stuff. Like he's still the
Mm-hmm.
brown coat talking about, was it Serenity Valley, where, they had to give up because the Alliance came in. So yeah, we're getting deep in geek speak here, but no, I am picking up what you're laying down, man. That would be my answer for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think I could really see that being awesome if they leaned into that.
Yeah, I would have said Willow back in the day, but after seeing this travesty that they put on Disney Plus, do not waste your time.
Yeah.
It's horrible, and it comes down to, it's like whatever it comes down to, it's like the dialogue alone is so bad that it's just not worth your time watching it. It's like they took colloquialisms and like phrases from like 2023, and they're like, "Hey, let's put that in Willow's world." Like, no, no.
Oh, the swamp is so lit. Yeah, like, no, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
work.
So like that is like, "Oh, you guys want to make out?" I'm like, did that character just ask those two teenagers if they wanted to? This is weird. I'm like, I don't like this. It's like, Like,
Yeah. No. So if your answer were movie instead of TV series, what would it be?
oh my god, if I could get a sequel to Event Horizon. I don't know if you guys had seen
Oh, that's such a good answer.
Event Horizon. Have you seen that one, Terry?
No, I don't think I've seen that
Dude.
one.
So this
Haunted house in space.
Okay.
a lot of Warhammer 40k nerds refer to this as the unofficial origin movie of the 40k universe.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
Be-
Sure.
because the whole idea in 40k is space travel is used by essentially they go from point A to B almost instantaneously when things go right uh, by traveling through hell instead of and that's their subspace is essentially just the
Yep.
hell dimension. And sometimes they'll like most of the time they'll show up on time. Sometimes they'll get caught in a weird current and show up like 100 years later or 50 years earlier. Like,
That's very Doctor Who.
yeah,
But
it'd
it's
just be
like,
like they show up 50 years before the conflict was supposed to take place. They're like, well, shit. Um, but like, and Event Horizon is basically like their first test of that. Really, is what that kind of boils down to. So, like you said, haunted house in space is a great description. Um, from the same time frame, one that I loved that was super schlocky, 13 Ghosts.
great movie. Yeah, and great bad movie.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Remember when they cut that horse up and it was heart still beating and shit? Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. That they should do like a series about that or something.
Yeah, well,
I'm
because we only ever
trying.
saw like 5 of the ghosts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any series that I think deserves a like a sequel, and unfortunately, I really just come down to like a lot of the stuff that a lot of the stuff that I like that's short usually has a decent enough ending that I can wrap my head around with it. It'd be okay with it. I find that more often than wanting sequels to what I feel are completed stories. Don't get me wrong, there are some times where stuff just gets canceled or whatever, and it feels like there's an injustice done. Firefly being a great example. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I find myself more often than not wishing that sequels had gone differently or wishing for better sequels.
Mm-hmm.
Being a huge Star Wars guy, the whole last three movies have been a total fucking nightmare. Um, Harry Potter, anything after the fourth movie, uh, just deviated so much from the source material in so
That
many
fourth movie was
ways.
perfect. Like that's
No,
my
it
favorite.
wasn't. No, it wasn't. That fourth movie is perfect except for one scene that is missing. And that scene is such a pivotal thing to so much of the Harry Potter universe that people don't know happened if they don't read the books.
Which one's
Anyone
that?
ever want if anybody's ever wondering how Fred and George Weasley got the money to open and start funding their joke shop, it's because Harry gave them his Triwizard winnings because he didn't need the money. People don't know this in the movies because it's not talked about, but the winner of the Triwizard tournament got like 100 galleons or something ridiculous, like some large amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and Harry was already rich.
Yeah, because
I'd
Harry's a
spend all
nepo
mine
baby.
on gillyweed.
Yeah, like that's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing. It's like so many people don't know where like it just became a thing in the fifth movie that they kind of started testing it out on people. And if you didn't know how that even came to fruition, because like potion ingredients cost money, testing takes time, like you failed, so which means you have to buy more ingredients. Like there's so much of it that is just overlooked. And that becomes such a big character arc for two important characters in the story, and it just gets totally ignored. So I'm kind of happy they're going to be doing a series
Yeah.
that is supposed to be super dedicated. I don't know if I think it should take 10 years to do the whole thing. I think that's a little ridiculous.
I,
Yeah.
I just can't get invested in a story about a nepo baby wizard. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
I
but
love the passion though you have about Harry Potter.
Oh,
So
he's so into Harry Potter. We
That's
could.
great.
and it's the same with Star Wars too. Like Star Wars, the like episodes 4, 5, and 6 are obviously great for all of the reasons of them like being innovative to an entire genre.
Hmm.
But like I'll even defend the prequels for the most part.
Well,
Like
people will say what they want about the prequels, but the prequels gave us Duel of the Fates,
d-
and the
Yeah.
whole
Oh
but
man. Yeah.
but
yeah.
that's the thing is
That's
that
part of the movie.
Hmm.
people can hate the prequels all they want for the pacing and whatever and the writing, and I won't disagree with you, but showing the prequels was such an important thing after the story that was Darth Vader.
Hmm.
Showing how he came to be was such an important thing, and I honestly think it got botched in a lot of ways. I don't think there was enough
Yeah.
emphasis on the importance that Qui-Gon played in Obi-Wan's upbringing, therefore how that played into Anakin's upbringing, and like there's a lot of things that just were obviously supplemented out in other properties, like
Yeah.
cartoons or whatever.
Next time I come on, we could talk about Star Wars, but I'll have
Okay.
to get going. The wife
Yeah.
just thundered upstairs.
I
We're
just
done yet?
realized we might have blown our hour time by a solid hour. So
It's all good. We're having
yeah.
fun.
Well, thank you very much for
I
coming
meant
out,
to
Justin.
ask you at the beginning before we started if we had a hard time because I would have made sure
She
we
heard
hit
that.
it as the
Sorry.
formatter. That is my fault for not asking.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming out, Justin. Always, it's always a pleasure to have you on the channel, whether it's playing D&D or now on our podcast. So I hope to get you on again
Yeah, definitely.
in the near future. Like I said, I would love to have you on for like just a bad movies that had a cultural impact segment. Would be
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that would
much
be
fun.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely going in the schedule. So, um, yeah. Is there anything you wanted to plug before you go?
Yeah. So check out the podcast, Epic Tales from the Sewers. You can check it out online. I mean, anywhere. I've got a website, epictalesfromthesewers.com. You can check it out on like Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, wherever. It's
Spotify. I
everywhere.
listen on Spotify.
Spotify, yep.
Yeah.
So that's the main platform. So there's there. I have another podcast that just came out called Generation Playlist. It's all about where we go through like a certain artist and we'll pick out a playlist and kind of curate it based on like all the songs that we like. So we did like Queen, Pink Floyd, Outlaw Country, which I didn't even know was a thing. I've never listened to country music in my life. So it's kind of cool. And then it's like, oh wow, look, it's like 30 songs from this, and like who is this person? And and I mean, we had to pick like 30 songs from Pink Floyd. It was ridiculous. So, but yeah, the first episode of that one is out. It's called Generation Playlist Podcast. I'd say check that out as well. It's on Spotify, and you can find our playlists also on Spotify.
Definitely. I am adding that to check out because right now I have to check out Wag the Dog, Bad CGI Sharks, and now
Yeah.
Generation Playlist.
Definitely check out Bad CGI Sharks. Great movie. You'll thank me. You'll be like, oh my God, this movie had no right to be as good as it was. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks again. I'm going to send. Well, before I say, as again, my name is Doug from 031 Productions, which is this channel. And thanks again to my fucking tech savvy straight man here, Terry, or Mini Mike, as he's known as his professional wrestler days. You can check him out on an Epic Polar Bear
Yeah, if
Twitch
and
as
when
well.
I ever go live again. Yeah.
Yeah, these days. So thanks again for everybody who showed up, and I hope you guys have a good night.